Good evening. You're flying with Pod Squadron podcast. All wings report in. This is Andy, Pod Job, standing by.
This is Lexi, Podmay, standing by.
This is Rodney, Pod Father.
Oh, that's good.
Pod Father.
Pod Rod. I don't know.
He gives you a force you can't refuse. All ships to attack formation. Mission objectives to talk about Star Wars in movies, streaming, animation, books, themed experiences, and your art and inspiration from a galaxy far, far and away. Today's fight plan includes, well, a little bit of catch up. Welcome back. We're all back here in 2025.
Wait it.
And we're going to be starting our talk through of Skeleton Crew. We're a little bit behind, but it was a really fun series. And, with all of the hustle and bustle at the beginning of the year, we didn't quite get to it, but we wanted to come back and make sure we did this and did it right. So we're going to be going episode by episode with this. And we welcome you to go back and rewatch and follow along with us as we go through this. But for all of you out there, all channels are open. Follow us here on X, on Facebook, and Instagram. Find us on YouTube, like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you know when we have new content. First, I'll be your squad leader for today. I'm Andy Lowe, a.k.a. the Chinese Pirate. I'm a director, storyteller, puppeteer, performer, and fight choreographer. On my wing is Lexi.
I don't know where I am anymore. Help me, guys. Help me.
Who am I? What are anything?
I go with a Feral Geek on Instagram and Facebook. Sometimes I even post. My hobby is designing cosplays I cannot afford to make.
And on my other wing is Rodney.
Hey everybody, Rodney, co-founder of the Geekish Network, and also producer for Pod Squadron. I am kind of filling in. We're missing Jason and Tracy for these few episodes, but kind of filling in, and answered the call. The beacon was lit, and I warped in.
And of course, to that point, we are, of course, just one squad in this fleet. We are part of the Geekish Network. That's right here that you're watching on YouTube. And anywhere else, Rodney? Just YouTube or
Twitch, YouTube,
Twitch,
Facebook.
Excellent.
Yeah, everywhere. We're trying to build our TikTok, and this year definitely gonna do a lot more TikTok, and until it goes away
again. What a sham.
Yeah.
So of course, as spoils to attack position, we are going in. So the first question, of course, is what have we been up to? We've been gone for quite some time. Things have been busy, I think, for all of us. What's up with you, Lexi?
I got back from Maui a couple weeks ago. Yeah, got back from Maui a couple weeks ago, and got rid of my fallopian tubes.
Yay!
Yeah, no, that was a long time coming, and I've been waiting to do this for 10 years. So yay. Well, yeah, big things. I wanted to get my swimming in before surgery, so
Nice.
it was.
Those are great videos, by the way.
I was gonna say if you check out Lexi's social media, she has some incredible mermaid photos that she did some underwater photo shoot. What is the process of that like doing those photo shoots?
Oh, wow. Okay, so, it's real different for a pool shoot than it would be for an ocean shoot. And I don't want to, go on too long because we have a limited time. But for an ocean shoot, you've got your photographer and you really want a safety diver. Because if you're going down there without goggles like I did for the actual shoot, like everything's mad blurry.
Yeah.
Everything's mad blurry. Everything's super limited. So the safety diver is there to make sure that, if you run into something, you need help, they're there to help you. But they're also there because they are the ones with the tank on. They're the ones with the goggles on. And,
So they have a breather there. So they've got the scuba and they've got an extra.
Mm-hmm. So the great thing about having a safety diver is, like, let's say that you have like a bigger fish that's kind of curious and like maybe you'd want to see it coming. That safety diver can kind of body block for you. And that's real handy. That's real handy because not all marine life is as graceful as you think they are. Don't open your mouth underwater if you can help it, because fish pee in there. And you got to the process started. We booked it back in December, and she was analyzing the tides in multiple locations the entire time. We actually picked 2 alternative shoot dates in case the weather was bad one day or the tide got the currents got really strong. So we picked a place known for clear, good visibility, currents, set the date, and then showed up, had to monitor the tides and show up when the tide was not going out or in. So that was kind of the prep process. Did, of course, some like inspiration photos of like other underwater photo shoots, picked my costume and all of that good stuff. I was considering going with a bigger tail, and I opted out because it was 20 pounds and that was going to take so much of my luggage. So I went with a 10-pounder instead, much more reasonable. So much more reasonable. But yeah, most of the images from that shoot are going to be on the Little Sea Monster Instagram, because I have a whole specific merm Insta. And I have cross-tagged myself on the Feral Geek account. So if you look at my tagged photos, you'll see them. But the direct mermaid stuff is all on the Little Sea Monster.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
It was super fun. I showed up at the beginning of humpback whale calving season.
Oh, that's awesome.
Lots of mothers and babies.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, lots of mothers and babies. And also humpback whales go down there to socialize during the winter. And the ones that pick that migration route, like they're not going to be, they're not the same humpback population, I don't think, that you get in like Madagascar. So you get a lot of spring breakers, teenage whales, and moms and babies. And the result is you're out there. I was free diving, and because I didn't have scuba gear on, and the bubbles weren't interfering with my hearing, I could actually hear whale song for most of that.
Oh gosh, that's wild.
That's amazing.
And it was like,
it's a dream.
It was surreal. It was absolutely surreal.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, again, check that out on her Insta feeds for that. And Rodney, what are you up to?
Man, just trying to figure out what we, planning out the future of the Geekish Network in the, this year, the new year, and trying to pick up something. I'm working on a film fest this beginning of March. So it was supposed to actually happen last weekend or 2 weekends ago, but it got pushed back because of the fires in LA. So when you're hearing this, the festival might be happening by then. But yeah, it's gonna cool. The Manila International Film Festival. So I worked it last year, and I got picked on to be the head of print traffic. We're calling it technical director. So I had to watch all the movies and make sure they're all good. And
right on.
Yeah, this should be really cool. It should be really, really cool. So yeah, got busy. I was talking earlier, just it's the beginning of the year. Things are starting to really, really pick up for me. So, which is good.
Excellent. So,
yeah, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, of course, we are just coming to the tail end of the Lunar New Year. So, Gong Hei Fa Choi, everyone. It is the year of the snake, which they say you wouldn't think it would be, but apparently, year of the snake is really good for rabbits. So, who knows? But I'll take it. So, but yeah, so I am about to endeavor on a couple of new artistic ventures, and we'll see how those go. But nothing to speak of yet. But yeah, we'll hopefully I'll have more to talk about as time comes.
So I'll have Japan and China adventures next time we see each other. So
that's right. I am doing some travel too. I've got some vacation time coming. Much needed vacation time coming up too. So gonna knock off another Disney park. Finally hitting Hong Kong Disney now. In addition to trying to get to Tokyo Sea's Fantasy Springs, and let's see, what else have I not seen yet? Tokyo.
How many have you seen?
Well, okay, so I started this off with Tokyo Disneyland back in 2018. 2019, I did that was Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea. 2019, I did Shanghai for a few days. And then of course the pandemic hit, so then things were on pause. I am of course a regular pass holder or magic key holder here in Anaheim. And then in 2021, I did Florida. Not my first time in Florida, but first time in a while. So this is me reconvening and passing through Tokyo to check out some of the new stuff. So of course, like I said, Fantasy Springs is the new area there in Tokyo Disney Sea, as well as the Beauty and the Beast ride that opened a few years back. So looking forward to that. And then Hong Kong Disney, which has probably one of the first applications of their trackless ride system, a ride called Mystic Manor, and honestly, I think still probably the best use of the trackless ride system that they've made. It's interesting because that ride is basically their version of the Haunted Mansion, but because the Chinese have a very different relationship with ghosts, they don't do like haunted stuff. That's just bad juju. So they don't even mess with that. So they came up with their own story of a cursed artifact that would bring inanimate things to life. And it's music by Danny Elfman. There's a lot of just really clever effects. It's really neat, and they tie it into the whole SCA mythology. That's the Society for Explorers and Adventurers. Look up the video. It's an incredible ride. I'm very much looking forward to experiencing that in person, as well as some of the other differences that they have in Hong Kong as well. So
that sounds amazing. Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. All right. But enough about us. Let's get into Star Wars, the Star Wars of it all. So, of course, this year is comparatively a slow year for Star Wars, right? We just had the release of Skeleton Crew, which was released through the holidays last year at the end of 2024. This year, the only other bit of Star Wars content that we're expecting to be released is the second season of Andor, which I am so stoked about. I am chomping at the bit for that.
I can't wait.
And also, I'm really scared about like emotions, because it's gonna hit in a whole different way this year.
We should definitely watch. Like after that, we should definitely watch Rogue One.
Oh gosh,
yeah. Like just,
I mean, it might even be worth just doing a rewatch. I'd be totally down to do a rewatch of season one.
Supposedly it ends and it goes right into the events of Rogue One. So,
but I mean, before season 2, let's do a rewatch of the arc of one, because every time I have watched it, I have picked up on something else. And there's so much to mine out of that, and way too many parallels, if I will.
I know exactly what you're about to say. And that's why you do see a lot of those specific speeches and clips being reposted recently, because of, it's very, very topical, right?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Marva's funeral speech going. I love to hear it.
In the manifesto, what was it? Was it
what's his name?
Wasn't it Nemec?
Nemec, yes.
Now, I crave the spelling. I might be butchering the pronunciation.
Yep.
All right, but let's get into the meat of it all. So first off, some interesting announcements in the world of Star Wars. Of course, there is rumors dropped that Ryan Gosling has been cast for a new Star Wars movie from Sean Levy. Now, I didn't know that Sean Levy had a Star Wars project. It seems like they have gone through so many different projects that have been greenlit and dashed aside. I can't keep track of what's in the works.
Yeah, when this dropped, I actually I had to you had the same feeling. I was like, wait, he has a movie, and then I remember vaguely. Then I had to like jog my memory, and then I like vaguely remember them saying he was tapped to do a movie, but it was like in way back in like not way back, but I mean 2022 or something like that. But yeah, you're right. It was one of those like sort of like, oh yeah, he's tapped. It's kind of like Ryan Johnson is working on something, and it's exactly right. It's like all these names have been attached to do all these movies, and then but nothing's happening, so you kind of forget. But then this came up, and then it's like it sounds like it's gonna really happen if he's getting attached to it.
I mean, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, but meanwhile, I'm just trying to wrap my head around like the Jack Black and Lizzo thing was a cameo, and they kind of made them characters that could be them a little more themselves.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I adore Ryan Reynolds. I love that he doesn't take himself so seriously, even though he's a conventionally good-looking man.
It was Ryan Gosling.
Or Ryan Gosling, sorry. Ryan Reynolds, sorry, my Ryans. I got my Ryans crossed. Yeah. Okay, completely different feelings. I totally want to yell about. I was like, how is Ryan Reynolds not going to just make it a Ryan Reynolds movie? Because like even with Detective Pikachu, the entire time I was like, it's Ryan Reynolds.
So, that said, I could totally imagine Ryan Reynolds like in a battle of words with Hondo Onaka. I mean,
I would love a Ryan Reynolds cameo, but Ryan Gosling, on the other hand,
Ryan Gosling,
that I can see.
I mean, Ryan Gosling, of course, he was in Blade Runner 2049, which I thought it was actually very good in.
On that, no, that one. That doesn't surprise me at all, and doesn't. No. Yeah. I see that. I would see that working. That would be fun if that happens.
Let's see here. We also had the news that they have officially recast Baylan Skoll for Ahsoka season 2. He will be played. Baylan Skoll will be played by Rory McCann, who is, of course, Ray Stevenson's buddy on Game of Thrones. They had a lot of fun there together. I never watched Game of Thrones, so you might know more.
Wow, really?
I was just like, I missed the beginning, and I'm so not motivated to get into the rest of it. So,
wow, I didn't know that. The Hound, he's a major character.
Really
compelling. Really compelling. Great arc, exact, and he's got that gravitas, for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's your favorite morally gray asshole. And that's also that does fit Baylan. And were they not friends? Yeah, the actors themselves.
I think so. Pretty article they are. Yeah,
I believe so.
I mean, that's good because it's kind of like he's taking
way to pay tribute.
Yeah, way to pay tribute to his friend,
and probably something that he would have approved of. So.
Yeah, wasn't there like after Heath Ledger passed, there was a film where a number of friends of his all kind of stepped in. Was it the something of Dr. Parnassus or something?
Oh yeah, and yeah, several actors stepped into the role, and I think they all deferred payment and gave it to his daughter.
Yeah, to his daughter. Yeah,
you're right. I do remember that now. Yeah. So they basically, because they had basically completed like 3/4 of the shooting.
Right.
But then,
and so they just split it up and made it a thing that this very wily character that he was playing manifested as different actors in different parts of the film.
Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
That's what it is, yeah.
But according to this article, it sounds like it was blessings of Stevenson's widow. So, well, that's really good.
Yeah.
So this is where to that end, it seems, I'm just quoting the article, to that end, it seems as though Baylan Skoll's journey will indeed continue on the extragalactic world of Peridia.
Which I gotta say, I'm really glad, because everything they seem to be setting up for Baylan, I was like, yeah, they were setting up so much stuff in terms of where he's going and how this is linking to the Mortis gods and all that. It's like, you can't just put that on some. This is so specific, and how it links to, of course, the path of Ahsoka and Anakin, of course. And I'm expecting.
And the whole Star Wars universe as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Imagine, those types of revelations and like essentially like finding out the origins of the Force, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that, and, presumably, I mean, there's a lot of speculation that they will be actually kind of doing a live action interpretation of the mother, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, Andy, on like they were setting up. I mean, I think that was one of the major complaints people had. Right? It was that like it didn't seem like it was going anywhere, but you could tell that they were setting it up for further future seasons, and that they were really going to dive more into that. And so, I personally am really glad that it's still happening. For one, it's still happening, and two, that like they are still going to continue with that storyline, because I think that's just major. It's just major, right?
Abel that's the mother.
Yeah. Very
I went and I looked her up. I was like, that's gonna.
Sorry, what is it again?
Abeloth.
Abeloth, right? Yes.
That's good. That was just gonna eat at me unless I looked it up.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so I'm really happy about that. And then for those of you that have watched Game of Thrones, the Hound and that actor, he's amazing. He's an amazing actor. He's got an incredible presence.
I think I've also read some rumors, or not so much rumors, but basically just short of confirming that they will be doing some more flashbacks to the Clone Wars era, with of course Hayden Christensen returning as Anakin, and the younger actress whose name is escaping me returning as young Ahsoka, but this time possibly adding Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, I read that too. Yeah,
as Obi-Wan. So a little bit more live action Clone Wars. I hope we get to see Rex and stuff as well too, if they're going to go that far into it.
Ariana Greenblatt.
Yes.
Young.
She was the daughter in the Barbie movie, actually,
and she's also in the Avengers.
That's right. She was young Gamora. She was much smaller then.
Yes.
Smaller then, yeah.
And then our next and final news bit. This is actually some announcements coming out of Disney right now. So, of course, every year they do their Seasons of the Force, which, of course, brings back, the fan favorite Hyperspace Mountain, which turns Space Mountain into an X-Wing versus TIE Fighter battle. They also have a number of specialty food and other specialty like character appearances, but they have announced a couple of new things, including a new projection show that will be projected on the spires of Batuu in the evenings, along with of course, the music of John Williams.
Fun. That's fun. I like that.
Love me some nighttime spectaculars.
So they teased it, right? Like I remember you posted it. It was they teased Luke and R2.
Yeah, in fact, that's another fun thing.
The Millennium Falcon. So there's speculation that like with this new, they're calling it Shadows of Memory, a Skywalker saga, that Luke will actually start showing up in the park.
Which is a big deal, because when they first opened Batuu, the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, they were very specific about time locking it into the era right between episode 8 and episode 9, so that all the stories and everything that takes place happens right there in the struggle between the Resistance and the First Order, Kylo Ren, Rey, and so forth. They've been starting to relax things a little bit more as they've been bringing in Boba Fett and Ahsoka and Sabine, Grogu's of course there. So this is actually the first time they're bringing in one of the original Star Wars characters into the park. Well, going them into like regular day walking around characters.
Is it going to be young Luke, or like?
I believe it's like Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Master Luke, yeah.
Master Luke. Because he's in black. He's got it's
presumably the Luke that has trained Grogu. So still like in that time era.
Training Grogu, or are we getting Luke training Rey?
Well, and so what they've done in the past is they kind of separate the zones. So like Rey can appear over by the Resistance base camp, in front of the entrance to Rise of the Resistance, but she won't do the marketplace, right? And then Chewbacca can do by the Millennium Falcon along with Rey. But then they'll have the Ahsoka and Boba Fett and all that. They can do like the marketplace and like the area by the
if it was old hermit Luke, he'd be hiding and you'd have to find him.
Oh, yeah.
Where's Waldo? Where's Luke?
Where's Luke? If you find him, he gives you a lightsaber.
He's like grumpy. No, he's just grumpy. He's just grumpy and he's like, get away from me.
If you give me a lightsaber, I will throw this thing away so fast.
Nursing a bottle of green milk.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I went there, this is the first time and I'm a Magic Key Pass holder.
Welcome to the fold.
Yes. And when I went last during the season of the Forest, it was awesome because it was like, it's the first time I had seen the land and yeah, there was like, Grogu was walking around and the Chewbacca was walking around. It was just
okay. Grogu's being carted around. He's not quite walking around.
Yeah. And it was like Boba Fett was there. Like I got pictures, but like, yeah, it was just awesome. It was just actually awesome. And it was so
the Fennec Shand looks really good. She's a very good look for Ming-Na Wen too.
Sabine looked like she really looked like Sabine, like the actress,
She's like Natasha 40s.
Yeah, she really looks like her. Like it was just amazing how similar she looked. And then, so yeah, to see like, and it was really because I wanted to bring this up quickly is, because now that I'm a Magic Key Pass holder, I'm like, I'm like in the Disneyland subreddit, like all this stuff. And,
you will learn the ways of that.
And I'm like, man, this is whole new world, right? I mean, pardon the fun, not intended. Pardon not intended. But I remember there was this post about specifically this, Andy, about like somebody posed the question like, hey, do you want the all the Star Wars characters to intermingle? They posted it to the subreddit, and it's just a long thread of people saying like, yeah, I kind of like it that it's around there, but then there's other people like, no, I really want to see the trilogy characters, and there's all this like feedback, and then like 2 days later is when they posted that tease, and I was like, so this was probably some Disney employee posted that thread to kind of get the discussion going.
So like someone in Imagineering trying to convince the execs to let them do this, and they're like
feedback, right? Like, let's get the feedback and see what the Disney heads want, right? And it was funny because it was pretty, I would say like 50-50. There were some people that were like, yeah, they like that it's like set in this area because it's more immersion. Yeah. Then there's other people that were like, no, I want to see all the trilogy characters. I want to see.
It's tricky too because and honestly, like for us here on the West Coast, we have a little bit of an advantage because it's so much more of a locals park that there's less. People are coming back more regularly, right? Yeah. Because they are locals. Versus in Florida, it's definitely much more of a vacationers park. They show up there for a week, and so the potential for kind of completing your experience is much more singular. So I think we are more likely, like we had the little BD droids.
Yeah, I saw that.
That they were testing last year. I don't think Florida got those. Most of these characters like Ahsoka and Boba Fett, we usually get them first because they have a harder time kind of incorporating it into the Florida operations too. But it's interesting also now that the Galactic Star Cruiser is RIP, truly gone and truly dead, to the point that they have announced that it will become offices for Imagineering, which is kind of sad, but I don't know. I wonder if that means that kind of unlocks some of the ability for them to kind of be a little freer with the timeline over there now. because it's not quite as much of an integrated experience. But yeah, I'm still hopeful. I mean, I'm still surprised that for the they'll do the special event Star Wars nights that are like an additional ticket purchase. As far as I know, in the years past, they haven't like revived any of like the specialized entertainment that they had originally intended to have in that park. Like, all of the catwalks, all of the upper levels, you can see that there is stage space that was there with the expectation that you would have characters up there, having battles and stuff like that. But that a lot of that got cut right before they opened, unfortunately. So I keep wondering, like, okay, when will we get some of that back?
Yeah. Maybe this is the start of it.
Fingers crossed, right? Yeah, let's jump in on what we set out to do here with the Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start from episode 1. We'll just be talking about episode 1. I know they were released episode 1 and 2, but we're just gonna talk about episode 1. So
it's been so long. I can't say I remember Noah Atten.
I see what you did there.
we might approach these a little bit more like less of like a play-by-play and more like reviews, maybe a little bit more kind of freeform with these instead of trying to go like beat by beat. Because of course the content's been out for a little while. I gotta say, the first impression I got from this first episode, I think I was hooked into it much faster than a lot of other people. I know a lot of people were kind of questioning the tone and the kind of ambient of it all. Of course, it was also jarring for me to see kind of suburbs in the Star Wars universe. Yeah. But I just found it really interesting that they kind of came up with this idea of this is like a piece of the galaxy that was somehow secluded and sequestered away and hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Which was interesting. And then, you still have plenty of familiar faces, familiar aliens. The main characters are aware of Jedi and the mythology around them.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the lore, the common lore of like the Jedi and the history of it. It's like still there, but it's like, yeah. And I think it's like, it was interesting too, because when we saw the trailers and you see the suburbanness of it all, right? You're like, huh? Like Star Wars, like suburban, like schools, like what? It's just, and then now that you sort of see like, oh, that's part of like the conceit of it all, right? That's how it is this sort of world that is sequestered from, like as you said, from the rest of the universe, to the point where like there's we're gonna be a little free flowing on this because it's like, most of it's already out, so we have watched most of it, and it's sort of like, but yeah, so it was really interesting, and then in that regards, where it was like, seeing that and that was so there's like, oh, so that's the explanation of why it looks like a suburban, and the rest of the Star Wars universe, there's no signs of that, right?
I found it kind of charming in a way because the kids with their Jedi lore, getting it all diluted, secondhand, thirdhand, there was something charming about seeing these kids who were in universe, who know
they're still Star Wars fans.
And they're still Star Wars fans, but B, they know less of the lore than you do.
Right.
They know less of the lore than you do. So that was cute to me. And I don't know, I wasn't thrown off by it at first because I was like, well, let's see. It was a clever way, I thought, to be able to put something at that point in the timeline without causing any disruptions in the Force, so to speak. I was just really, really interested. I was like, all right, how are they getting off planet? Like, I know they're going to have to do this relatively fast. So what are they doing?
Well, particularly when they start, right? Of course, they start in the broader Star Wars universe, and they do this great kind of send up of the original episode 4 opening, right? With except it's instead of a Star Destroyer capturing the Tantive 5, it's a pirate ship sacking a cargo ship. And
Treasure Planet of them.
And say again?
It was very Treasure Planet of them, like the animated movie that
Totally.
was horribly underrated.
Lots of Treasure Planet things. I mean, honestly, we meet Jude Law's character. Well, okay, we meet Jude Law's character, but we don't know we meet him in the first, couple minutes of the show. But yes, he very much, you can kind of gather, Captain Silvo to Captain Long John Silver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, sure, like Treasure Planet is a treasure island,
right?
Take, but I liked that they had that opening, because if anybody is a fan of that movie like I am, and you've seen it a million times, the opening is a very Star Warsy cargo ship, merchant ship, just gracefully flowing in and then gets attacked by pirates. Right. So they called out one of the visuals basically from one of their own movies, which I thought was clever.
I mean, it's a great sequence. I mean, watching them, attack the ship. They have the docking tubes, which kind of latch on. You have some other pirates who are helmeted and they just do space jumps across, and old fashioned harpoons. I mean, it's a great sequence.
Mm-hmm. No, it really kicked off. I really kicked off the adventure feel of it all. And then the contrast of suburbia, I was like, all right, where are you going with this? Because they're going to make the two meet. Right. I was like, yeah.
Well, of course. And our first impression of our main character, Wim, right, is him playing with action figures. Just smacking action figures, which is great.
Yeah, I think, overall, the tone right away for me was they definitely trying to go for that adventure feel. Definitely obviously from the trailers to everything we've seen. And I mean, they've literally just said it in interviews too. Like they were really trying for an Amblin type of deal. And the
kids on bikes,
is just
bikes.
That's T Kids, right? Goonies, where
yeah, we got that, and we got the Scooby gang thing going on with all of you've got all the different personality types. You've got Wim, who's the hot-headed one, and then you've got Neil,
the dreamer, right?
You have the hot-headed dreamer type, the Ash Ketchum type. You have the anxious friend, the anxious sweetheart. You're now. You're Samwise Gamgee. Neil is totally their Sam. You've got
your Daredevil in Fern, right?
Fern, and you're your girl behind the desk, your whiz kid, who's your Teddy. Your Data. KB was my look, I love Neil. I love him. How can you not love him? KB's still my favorite. KB is still my
the effects on him are pretty good too.
Oh,
it really looks, because I know they filmed him without that.
Yeah, with they had the performance capture.
Yeah, and so it's not. It looks good to me.
But I do think that there were some. I think I was seeing where they did have some scenes where they did have a puppeteer.
Did really?
Okay.
Oh, cool.
I think it was mixed. I'm pretty sure it was mixed, because I remember reading. So I gotta fact check myself on that, but I think I do remember something about a combination of them actually using his expressions, but then I remember seeing some stuff about robotics. So,
yeah, I'll have to look into it, because I personally thought it was just they filmed a motion capture and then they just put VFX over it. But if there is a mixture of prosthetics and robotics and with that's really impressive, because I can't really tell, so yeah, I for the first episode, it's just getting to know the kids, obviously,
well, getting to know the world too, right? There's a lot of great little hints, right? Yeah. Like subtle little things where how quickly did you guys notice that they do have speeders, they do have cars, they have buses, but no one drives. Did you notice that?
Yeah, there was like all droids, right?
Well, droids, or if they had a car, it was on a track. Like everything had there was like a line in all the roads, and everything basically was automated. So we have this whole society where everyone is kind of submitting to technology.
Except for the
right?
bikes.
And that's the thing that's like different, right? The kid lets the kids be a little bit more wilder and free form.
Yeah.
So I did look it up, and they did do some motion capture for Neil's actor Robert, but that was to enhance what they did with the puppeteering, and the mask was because they wanted him in the suit in real time acting. So I'm unsure if they got him doing it without the head first and then used it as a reference for the puppeteers, or if they did more detail in post, because I know they did stuff in post because the original Neil head mask has on his little nose bridge the thing where he can see out. It's very clear, and they've obviously taken that out in post. So
cool. Yeah, I hadn't seen any photos of him wearing the prosthetic head.
Yeah,
I had only seen him wearing the performance capture rig, but cool.
Yeah, no, so I don't know in what order they did that, but it was a combination of an actual puppetry where he was working in a suit with a puppet head and then using his own facial expressions to supplement, and they nailed it.
Going back into that too is like I'm just really glad too. There's just more creatures again. More aliens, more creatures. I mean, you think going back to what we were talking about Andor, I think that was one of the complaints people had about Andor was there wasn't enough aliens, right? There weren't other creatures, but this is like these are creatures and there's aliens, and it's just like
there's an old lady Ithorian who's walking her frog dog.
That was a little weird about Andor to me, because the one of the points of that Lucas always made was that the Empire was very human exclusive, so it was a little weird to see the rebellion be human exclusive. Maybe they changed that this season, who knows.
And the adventure feel of it is I like that too.
I think it was a smart choice, because when you see Star Wars for the first time as a kid, it gives you that sense of being a kid on an adventure. And you can't quite reclaim that watching the whole thing as an adult, but if you're an adult who grew up with that kind of kids movie, that really could land, and it did for me anyway.
So I also kind of love how we are introduced to our characters, right? We see them in groups. We have, of course, Neil and Wim, who are our younger kids. Wim is a little much like his name, a Wim, but he's the dreamy one. Neil is the kind of the scaredy cat kid, and of course, like the first time we see them together, they're at the bus stop, referencing a Jedi Sith battle, right?
Yeah. They're the kids.
And then of course when we meet meet KB and
Fern,
thank you. They are like in a drag race with some other surly teen, which kind of tells you everything you need to know, right? It's ADK. You have the kind of more rough and tumble kids, and then you have the nerdy kids. And you also have that kind of like the boys and the girls here, the stupid boys, and the clever tough girls.
Thing too is like they do show the relationship with Wim's dad, trying to he's a single dad trying to raise a kid, and it's just like that same sort of latchkey thing where like he has to basically fend for himself, right?
Fern's mom too, right?
They're all of them, right? Like
establishing that Fern's mom is some kind of muckety muck in the society, and is putting all this pressure on her to kind of live up to some kind of standard. for this. She's the first one who kind of references this idea of the great work, which is a good little tease. We also see all these droids, of course, the droid teachers, the droid principals, the droid everything, right? The security droids, who even escort both Fern and Wim to what is it? I mean, they have to show up basically to the principal's office, right?
For like detention or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That was within the plan. I read those like, they really showing in this first episode showing like all the structure of the world, right? They're showing that there's all this like there's school, there's bureaucrat, there's a lot of structure in this world, which is interesting because outside of that, when we see in other episodes, just like it's chaos.
Yeah. Well, the closest thing I feel like in Star Wars period that we see to At-Aten is Coruscant, but it's fully urban as opposed to suburban. So you have like the suburban version of Coruscant.
What else? Oh, they also established this idea of these assessment tests that all the kids have to take, and to figure out how they fit into the great work. And they kind of, I in hindsight, like realizing that everything that the teacher droid talks about is like currency and right. It's like it's all banking. It's like, okay, this is all really boring.
I would have done so bad on that planet. I ended up like a janitor or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they made it to near our own in a lot of different ways, right? And
I mean, no shade on being a janitor. I just know I wouldn't make a lot of money on a banking planet with my number dyslexia.
So remember, like you said, we're all kind of like jogging our memory because we had watched the first one a while ago. But like, he basically he sees. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he finds the ship. He
goes off the rails
for something.
So he's late he wakes up late on the day of his assessment. I'm glad you brought up the assessment because he oversleeps, is in a rush to get to school, and he's like, I'm going to take that shortcut I saw the girls take.
Right.
So he goes and he tries to take the shortcut. He doesn't know the route. Doesn't know how to doesn't know where all the hills, etc. are, and he's in a rush. So he wipes out, I think. Or ends up.
I remember
he finds the hatch.
And of course he's like, Jedi Temple.
But then, of course, later on, when he meets Fern, he kind of tips them off that he accidentally tips them off that they found this thing, and of course they're looking for a new power converter or something like that for their bike.
Right.
So of course they one of the great things of this whole series is that you have the boys and you have the girls, and they show up both at the site, and they're like claimsies, and then of course the boys are like, okay, once we get inside, we'll call claimsies on the inside. Which is so cute. Yeah. And of course the girls are just sitting back going, these dumb boys, we're making them do this work for us.
Because they knew it was a ship.
No, I don't think they did. I think they just,
I think that Fern, when he was like, oh, it's a Jedi temple, she's like, he probably found something mechanical or a building.
Yeah. Right.
She might not have known it was a ship, but she might have, because she's obviously a mechanic. So but I mean, she knew it wasn't a Jedi temple. She just knew she put parts in there.
I mean, I get the sense that they because they're also kind of shocked when it takes off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for that matter, it doesn't seem like anyone in this world have seen a ship before, right? Like it's the first time, like later. I mean, there hasn't been a ship landing on this planet in like centuries, basically, right?
But she knew it was a good spot for scrap. She knew that there was no Jedi temple.
But of course, this ends the first episode with, of course, Wim hitting the button, the big shiny button that he's not supposed to touch, which of course goes into autopilot, launches them into space as Wendell Wim's dad arrives and sees them getting flung out into space.
Yeah. And then they go past the barrier too, right?
Right.
Mhm.
They go past the barrier, which is like, that's the first indication that like this planet is different.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, that, and also it's the first time they see stars, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because they're just like little pieces here and there just indicating like, yeah, this planet is very different.
Very different, yeah.
Very, very different. If this is the first time they're seeing stars, but then, and then they're going past this barrier and then, just all these different things where it's like, okay, just really showing that this world is definitely set apart, very, very different, which is,
I love how realistic the reason was. Why did they put all this effort into hiding this planet? Money. Money. Mess.
But that brings us to the end of episode 1, I believe. So come join us next time, and we will jump into episode 2. And that's when things get really interesting, because all of this world building and character development starts to pay off in big ways, and we meet one of my favorite characters in the whole series, which is what they think is a skeleton and turns out to be a great character. But that's all for this episode. So thank you for joining us here. We're on the Geekish Network. Follow the Geekish Network on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and subscribe to the channel. We will be releasing new VODs and pods on Mondays weekly. Check the schedules for all the other great shows here throughout the week. And thank you, Rodney, for setting all this up. We are the Pod Squadron. Please check out all of our content on podsquadron.com. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For podcast subscriptions, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. I am the Chinese Pirate.
I'm Pharaoh Geek.
and I'm Podfather.
He is the Geekish Network. All rings return to base, course laid in, and prepare to make the jump to light speed on my mark. And remember, the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. Only the Sith deal in absolutes. Good night.